She almost got into 10K before they got to her, didn't she? New reports of a fresh program of outreach in the Muslim world more than a week after Osama bin Laden's death. The Wall Street Journal reports today that President Obama plans to make a speech aimed at reconciliation in the Middle East. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is president and founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy here in New York, as opposed to his hometown of Phoenix, Arizona. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning, Bill.
Getting word from the White House and our Mike Emanuel that the White House is playing down this speech. There's been no date set, but at some point it may happen. What I find fascinating since the death of Osama bin Laden, you've had a total of 300 people protest in Cairo. That's nothing. 1,500 in the town of Quetta, Pakistan, which is largely where the Taliban has been based. That's nothing. Abbottabad, you had a few dozen come out, and 100 in Rawalpindi in Pakistan. What does it say in the larger Islamic world? Well, that people aren't out there protesting the killing of bin Laden? Because, in all honesty, I thought it would go exactly the other way, and it has not.
Yeah, I think it basically tells us that the militant part, the violent extremism, is beginning to get marginalized. Make no mistake, Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula, run by Imam al-Awlaki, Al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Somalia still is thriving, as many of our reports show. And it's like a hydra. You know, you cut off one head and you'll have others. Bin Laden himself was becoming irrelevant in many ways, more of a symbolic patriarch as an icon. So it was a body blow, but they'll have other heads. But from a mass opinion standpoint, there is the beginning of a marginalization of the violent elements, but the bigger core problem, which terrorism is a symptom of, the ideology is actually thriving, which is the ideology of political Islam.
Okay, and how do you go after that? Because it's your view that it's time for us to take sides.
Absolutely.
We've taken sides already, have we not?
Not at all. We've been so busy with political correctness and making sure that we don't offend anybody that we've actually allowed the strong horse, which is the Islamists that oppress, that have tactics that put other Muslims into fear. We haven't allowed the Muslim communities around the world to have a civil war of ideas by not taking sides. And it's time for us to take the sides of freedom. Yes, this is a Muslim issue. It needs a Muslim solution. But if we don't take the sides of freedom and help the freedom activists in Iran, which we turned away from last summer, help the freedom activists in Syria, which we've been ignoring, help the freedom activists in all these countries, and we just say, you know what, it's time for isolationism, we're going to find our security more at threat than ever before.
Wow, so you think we've oversimplified all of this?
We really have.
In what way?
Well, because we keep using I mean, one of the concerns I have is that if the president's going to give a speech in a few days, it's an opportunity to say that what we stand for, just like Ronald Reagan said, we stood for freedom against the evil empire. We need to declare what the problem is with this theopolitical movement and not just say, well, all Muslims are wonderful and hunky-dory. We need to say that there's reform that needs to happen, the modernization. Our organization is about the separation of mosque and state. Those ideas are the only way to have democracies that are real democracies that can work with us versus theocracies that will ultimately hegemonize into Islamic communities that will be against Western society.
Yeah, I think all your points are well taken. What the Wall Street Journal reports is that what the president would say or will say at whatever point, whether it's a few days or a few weeks, is that the Muslim world is at a crossroads, suggesting they have a decision to make now.
Absolutely, and they're going to make that decision, but we can't pull out, mean pull out. Look at Facebook and Twitter. These are Western technologies that help them transform their societies. Why can't we give them vehicles for Western technology of liberty, of freedom, to perpetuate and continue the freedom agenda that actually is proving to work? But we keep calling it an Arab Spring. It's an Arab fetal stage of growth of a new infrastructure, not the theocratic infrastructure. But if we're going to defeat that and marginalize it, it's going to take a generation, a long-term strategy, and not just a short-term myopic one against one leader of Al-Qaeda.
Fledgling societies, that is true. I have 15 seconds left. I have not spoken to you since the killing of bin Laden. What does that death mean?
I think it's a victory. It's vindication for our, especially the 9/11 families. And I think for moderate Muslims around the world, they see the monster who claimed to speak for Islam finally pay the ultimate price and brought to justice.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser in New York. Nice to see you in person.
Thank you, Bill.